Hi, I'm Josh with Oh My Gosh Josh, the podcast. Some people think that start a podcast is easy, but I'll be honest with you, it's the most frustrating thing out there. You worry what people think about you, what you're going to say, where's your mind at and this stuff. Truthfully, I've been a nervous wreck. I keep hitting record, delete, back and forth because I want the best. My wife told me, her name's Brooke, she's amazing. She told me, just be yourself. And I'll be honest with you, I don't know who myself is. Not all the time. I feel like I'm more than just one person. People are like, well, that's called multiple personalities. No, that's not what I mean. I mean, who do I introduce you to? Because I'm not just a one-sided person. I have different thoughts and different dreams, and my moods can change. And, depending on where I'm at, Paul said, I don't know if it was in Romans, he said, when I'm with the Jews, I'm a Jew, and with the Romans, I'm a Roman. I kind of feel like that a lot. I don't know how to present myself. How do you advertise yourself to America? How do I advertise myself as a God-fearing, loving Christian? I don't know. But with this podcast, I hope we can kind of go on the journey together to find out, find out what's the best way to represent yourself. What's the best way to, be. Because, this cowboy hat, I love it. I love it to death. It's from Stetson. But let me show you something. What's covering up? Covering up my baldingness. I think the cowboy hat makes me look a little cooler, to be honest with you. That's why I wear it. I think it's cool. My wife, she wears hats too, and I love it. She wears this black hat, white hats, all these different ones, and she looks like one of these debutantes from the South, if you know what I mean. She wears a dress. She's gorgeous. My wife is 10 times out of my league. Her name's Brooke, by the way, in case I haven't said that. No, I got ADD, so a lot of times my attention goes, we'll be talking, all of a sudden something moves to the left or right, and I'm like, squirrel! Whatnot. But, yeah, just here to talk to you, have some fun, give you some stories. I was thinking, what would be a good story, the first story for the first episode? And I was like, I want to tell you guys something. When I was in my early 20s, I got to go to South America, to Shringamazoo. That's in Peru, all right? We started going to this little church near Pecatonica and met some amazing people. Absolutely loved them. Absolutely had a great time. I had just kind of come back to God. My dad had been on mission trips to Africa and all this stuff, and my dad's my idol. I just worshiped the ground my dad walked on. And I was like, my dad did all this stuff. I'm going to too. Well, the issue there is I was kind of making my identity his identity, and I was living in his shadow a little bit. I had to find my own footsteps, my own path, blaze a trail for myself, which took years to do, but eventually I did it. But anyway, first trip, South America. So my dad looks at me. The pastor first says, hey, everybody, we're getting ready to go to the mission trip, South America, blah, blah, blah. I'm going to be gone for like 10 days, 12 days, something like that. And I'm like, oh, man, that sounds awesome. And my dad looks at me, and we both jokingly said about the same time, if you go, I'll go. I'm like, oh, man, it's going to be great. Well, like I said, I just kind of rededicated myself to the Lord. At 18, I kind of fell out. So 20 years old, just rededicated myself. And I thought in my head at that time, if my dad goes, I will be protected. My daddy will guard me. He'll protect me. He'll keep me safe. And, let me tell you what happened. So went and had to go get a passport, had to get the shots, vaccinations, all this other stuff. Which, whether you're anti-vax, pro-vax, whatever, I don't care. As long as you love Jesus and you plan on meeting the Lord someday, that's all that matters to me. Get a relationship. Anyway, so getting all this stuff done, my dad looks at me, and we're getting closer and closer to the date of heading to South America. My dad says to me, he goes, Josh, they're not renewing my passport for some reason. And I looked down like, yeah, whatever. He goes, no, I'm serious. They will not renew my passport. Let me tell you this. I was scared out of my mind. My heart dropped to my stomach. And that's where it sat like, ugh. What do you mean? We just started going to this church less than a year ago. I barely know these people. For all I know, they're psychopaths, which they weren't. They're great people, but scared out of my mind. I'm like, Lord, you got to help me through this. You got to help me through this. I was living in fear like crazy. The day before, or 2 days before we went to leave, I invited the whole family out to eat at Manny's in Freeport. I'm like, yeah, everybody, let's eat. That kind of what I was doing as I kind of get my goodbyes in, because honestly, I thought I was going to die. I thought either the plane was going to go down, or I was going to go off the side of the cliff, or I was going to be killed some way. Like, I thought I was going out like I wrote goodbye letters to people. I did the whole thing, and I was like, I was just scared. I was terrified. But anyway, I didn't sleep for 4 days. 4 days, like, I didn't know how that's possible, but I was that scared, just out of my mind, but I'm praying and I'm praying and I'm praying and I'm getting scared the closer we get to leaving. And the day of we're getting ready to leave, everyone's all like, this is great. We're going to have so much fun. And the head pastor's going with us, and he's looking at me and he's like, can I trust this guy? Can I not trust him? He's only been coming to church for less than a year. We're all kind of trying to figure each other out. And there's people that I thought should have gone that didn't go, like my dad. And then there's people that were there that I'm like, oh, I don't know how you're going to do this, God. This one woman, she's itty bitty, and she's scared of her shadow. And you're sending her with. Now, looking back, I was scared of my shadow too, but, my shadow's bigger, so, but we're going, and all of a sudden the plane takes off, and this woman's sitting next to me, one of the most amazing women I've ever met in my life, named Julie. Julie and I are sitting next to each other, and she reaches over, she goes, can I hold your hand? I'm like, yes, you can. I've never been on a big plane before. We're over there, we're holding hands. Me, this big 6'4", 20-year-old, 300-pound kid, holding on this woman that's probably 50s at the time, and maybe $120, about 5'6". Just, we're holding hands. Going up in a plane, scared out of my mind. I couldn't sleep. Like I said, I was awake for 4 days straight. And to get to the spot in Shringamazoo, and we had to go through Lima, then Huancayo, and we ended up driving the back of a Toyota pickup truck through the mountains, through rivers, and I mean rivers. Like the water had come up over the truck, of the hood of the truck. They had snorkels on these things. We're going in jungle. And we're going in there, and I'm like, God, I am scared. We're on this double-decker bus going through from Huancayo to this spot where we go to get the trucks, and I'll never forget it. Never forget it. I had my camera with me, and I'm trying to, I'm freaking out, just freaking out of my mind. And I heard the Holy Spirit say to me the first time in my life, as clear as a bell, he said, haven't I taken you this far? I go, yeah. He goes, can I take you the rest of the way? I said, yeah. Now, mind you, at this time, I'd been awake for something like 60 hours, straight, scared. And I felt at such peace when I heard that. I took my camera out. I started taking pictures of the scenery. In this double-decker bus, you could look down. Cows looked like ants at the bottom. That's how high we were up. What I didn't know, and thank God I didn't, the week before we were there, one of those double-decker buses went off the side of a cliff, rolled down, and I don't know if the people lived or died. I think they all died. Same road we were on. And you got these little guys, they don't speak English, and I speak very little Spanish, and they're just, they're like 5'2", and that's tall for a lot of these guys. 5'5" is like huge. So me being 6'4", I look like a giant. They actually gave me the nickname down there, Grande Amigo, which, in case you don't know what that means big friend. So we're down there, we're having fun and all that stuff. I got my first night of sleep in the jungle. We were sleeping in tents on a concrete floor. It was super rough, trying to get this stuff. It was rough. But I tell you what, I felt God there more than I have in any other spot in my life. I felt at such peace and at such, I felt at home, and I realized right then and there, if God is going to let you go through something, I'm not saying you're not going to struggle, and I'm not going to say that you're not going to be hurting and all this other stuff. You're not going to have doubts and all that. But when God tells you something and he opens the door, he's going to take care of you the whole way. You know, he's never early, never late. He doesn't abandon his children. He doesn't do that. You know, he is a graceful God. He is a giving God. He is a protective God. You know, so we go through there. We get all this stuff going on. We're building stuff for them. You know, helping them build a church, helping them put up water towers, all this stuff so they can have a better life. And these people just come to us. I had a picture somewhere. I got my arms out. I got my arms just like, rawr, like that. And I got 4 kids hanging from my arms. And the one night we go to a church service, and there's this little girl. And me and my friend, Ash, she's next to me. And this little girl grabbed me by my pinky, and her whole hand wrapped around my pinky. I mean, I'm thinking she's like 3, 4 years old. She was like 12. And she just kind of like, you know, was attached to me. And she grabbed my pinky and all that. And during the church service, she fell asleep into my side of my gut, just kind of snuggled in there. And, you know, it was cute and all that stuff. And halfway through, she wakes up, forgetting that, you know, I'm me, you know, big man. And she wakes up and she looks up and she goes, and she turns back in church. And I started laughing. And she grabbed onto Ash real quick. And, you know, we just had ourselves a good time. There's a lot of little jokes and laughter, and you know, it was fun. You know, I truly enjoyed it. I had one of the best times of my life, and it really opened up the door for me going on more mission trips. You know, I just felt like, you know, that's where God wanted me, and that's what I did. Made some lifelong friends. You know, talk to these people every now and then. You know, so anyway. We get through the mission trip, coming back through, and like I said, they had rain. They had like, I think it was 4 feet of rain in the Amazon. I think it was in like a 24-hour period. 4 feet, just boom. And the road we were on got washed out. And we're coming back through. And at this point, when you're heading home, these people are your best friends. I mean, you know everything about them, you know, the good, the bad. And we're going through it, and I'm in the back of this truck, and it's got a canopy over top. And the pastor and his wife, so these are his grandchildren back. I'm hanging out with them, and the pastor and them are looking at us, and I look at the kids and I say, hey, just to let you know, if this truck starts to go over the edge, I said, I'm going to grab you and toss you to the dry land, you know, which would have been like 20 feet. I would have gave it my best. I would have expected them to do the rest. I'm going to try and toss you to there. I said, get there and go. And they're like, okay. I mean, we're in the back, and the water's coming in the back of the truck too. It's a little terrifying. And the pastor told me after we got out, he goes, he called me JD. He goes, honestly, JD, I got to tell you this right now. He goes, I thought we were going to go over. He goes, I thought, well, at least my grandbabies are going to make it. I know Josh isn't back with them. You know, just it was a fun time. You know, and then this next mission trip I went on, that was awesome too. So Julie's husband, Donnie, was a little bit of a kind of like, he was a procrastinator of the faith too, I believe. But his first mission trip was with me. We went down to, I believe it was Kentucky, and we were redoing like a trailer for a couple. This couple had dogs, and they never let the dogs outside the house, and it was awful. It smelled so bad. Smelled to high heaven. I mean, it was bad. And we were walking through, and literally, as you walk in this trailer, the floorboards would start to give out, and you know, you're going to cause a hole. So we had to rip everything out. We had kids with us. We had men that knew what they were doing. Thank God. I'm good at destruction. I am not a builder. I am not the guy you call to build something. If I build it, there's a 90% chance it ain't going to last. You know, that's just the way that goes. If you're noticing Buc-ee's, I'd like to give a shout out to them. One of the best gas stations ever. Went and seen them in Tennessee. Anyway, back to the story. So anyway, Donnie and I formed an instant bond. His wife, Julie, was talking about me, how much she loved me, and I loved Julie. She's just an amazing woman of God. So Donnie and I are talking, and we're laughing. Oh, man, we laughed so hard. We had tears rolling down our face. You know, I mean, I have never laughed so hard in my life than I was with that man. And there was this other guy named Chris. Chris, great guy, very sarcastic, very intelligent, and kind of obnoxious at the same way, but we loved them. And so Chris, Donnie, and I are redoing some cabinets, and they want to help putting them back up on the wall. Well, the women finished painting, so these cabinets are heavy. They're like 300 pounds, all solid oak. I mean, they're heavy. I got my back up against them, and I'm pushing them up, and Donnie's trying to help hold it. And all of a sudden, Chris goes to screw them in, and all of a sudden, we moved a little bit, just slightly, and Chris looks at us and goes, "Would you guys mind holding this still?" He said, "This is really hard to do." And Donnie looks at me without missing a beat, and Donnie goes, "Ha, ha, ha. He funny, man. We kill him last." I started laughing so hard, my shoulders get to hopping like this. Mind you, the cabinet's on my shoulders, and there's fresh paint behind us. That cover's going up and down on that gosh darn fresh paint scraping. And Chris' eyes go, just bigger than saucers. Oh my gosh, it was hilarious. Donnie and I are about ready to fall over from laughing. And there's Chris looking at us like, I'm surrounded by the Three Stooges. But we had so much fun. Mission trips can be one of the best things you've ever gone on. I tell you what, if you have a heart for it, I say go. I say absolutely go. I've gone with children. I've gone with men, women. I got to tell you another funny story. So years ago, we go down to an Indian reservation in Arizona. It's a Navajo people, amazing people, loved them. But our contact name was Jesse Billy, and Jesse Billy liked to mess with you a little bit, give you a little bit of that, play on your white side a little bit. And we're going through this canyon, and Jesse looks at me and he goes, "See that Indian up there?" And I go, "No, where?" He goes, "Exactly." Like, what? I'm like, "What are you talking about?" He's like, "Them Indians," he goes, "will probably kill you." He said to me, he goes, "They'll probably kill you." I'm thinking, I'm freaking out. I'm like, "What do you mean they're going to kill us? We're here to help them." He goes, "But not me though, because I'm part of them." I'm like, "What? Are we being like brought in to be crucified type deal?" Just it was crazy. You get this bunch of crazy people, and they're amazing, man. Though, man, he had a heart for the people, and he loved us. And we did a camp there for the children, which was heartbreaking too, because you don't think of America being a third world country at times, but on some of these Indian reservations, these kids, a lot of them didn't have coats. They were hungry. I mean, we were down there. Some of their trailers, their roofs were not nailed on or screwed on. They had used tires up on top of their roofs, holding the roofs down, and like ropes tying them. I mean, crazy. I mean, you don't think that. Not here in America. Not here in the U.S. Maybe other places, but not here. Anyway, had a good time down there. Had some crazy stuff happen too. We were staying at this church, and we were bringing, I think it was around Thanksgiving time the one year. We went there multiple times. And it was around Thanksgiving, and my mother goes outside. We're eating, I think they're called Navajo tacos, filled with a lot of beans. Really good, all that stuff. We really liked it. And all of a sudden, my mom goes outside because, what do beans make you do? Well, what do beans make you do? So she goes outside, and it's pitch black, right? You can't see your hand in front of your face. She goes outside, and she lets out a little tootsie wootsie, right? And she starts farting. What she didn't know was that there was a bunch of kids out there. She farted right in front of them. It was the funniest thing you ever see. She was so embarrassed. She's like, "Oh my gosh!" I go, "Oh my gosh!" And we're like, "Why?" She goes, "I went outside because I had to pass some gas, and I farted on some Indian children." I'm like, "Great, Mom! You just committed some sort of racial crime, I'm sure." But God has a sense of humor, and like I said, I've been to South America. I've been to Huancayo. I've been to Honduras. I've been in the Panama Canal. Been to Mexico. 17 different trips, just traveling, a lot here in the U.S. And it never gets easier to see some of the stuff that goes on. It never gets easier to be part of it. But every time I've gone there to serve them, I ended up getting served. You know, it's interesting because I'm like, man, I'm going to do all these things for these people. And it turns out God ends up doing stuff for me. You know, like I think I'm there to help them. And then, you know, it's life-changing moments. God just takes care of it. You know, it's amazing. I love mission trips. I think they're some of the greatest things ever. I've been in talks with a couple guys here about doing more. I'd like to hit 3 more mission trips before the time I'm 40. I'm 38 now. So, you know, see what happens. You know, if it's God's will, yeah. But if not, then no. Anyway, you know, we all tend to wonder if we are chosen to go on mission trips or whether or not, you know, we should. I say listen to God, see what He has to say. But I think some of the greatest missionaries out there are the ones that are local. Like, it was so much easier for me to go into a foreign country and minister the gospel than it is for me to go to my neighbor next door. Which, how messed up is that? You know, I think of that. Jesus said it. You know, it's easier for, or what do you say about a prophet has no honor or something like that in his hometown, and that's what it feels like a lot of times. Like, I get scared to talk to my neighbor about Jesus, but yet I can go into a foreign country and do it. You know, it's crazy how that stuff goes, and you know, it's embarrassing. But it's like, man, you have so much courage to go into a foreign country and, you know, maybe die. But let me tell little Miss Ruth next door, you know, 85 years old, about Jesus before she passes. And, man, I tend to clam up. I know a lot of people are like that. You know, a lot of it is because we have to deal with them on a daily basis. And with, you know, going to a mission trip, I'm there for a week or two, and then I'm gone. I might see you once every decade if I'm lucky. You know, who cares? I don't know. It's something we all have to deal with. I think it gets easier. The more you evangelize, the easier it gets. You know, I guess it's kind of like doing a podcast. The more I do it, probably the easier it's going to get. This first podcast, I feel like I just struggle left and right. My mind's all over the place, trying to give you guys some good stories. You know, you give me someone else across from me, bam, I'm on fire. I got 1,000 stories that come to mind, you know, want to talk to these people, relate to them, ask them questions. So I guess this journey, I'm asking you guys to go with me. You know, I'm asking you guys to explore this next lifestyle with me. You know, help me to fulfill a lifelong dream. Help me get this podcast going. If you want to be on my podcast, you can reach out to me on my Facebook page, Oh My Gosh Josh, the podcast. Or you can get my email, I think it's ohmygoshjoshthepodcast.com, something like that. My wife's helping me with this stuff. I am not tech savvy at all. You know, I'm pretty much, you know, caveman drawing, you know, stone tablet, you know, fire good, meat delicious, you know. You know, I tell you what though, having a wife like my wife is amazing to have. You know, we fight, you know, we go back and forth, we deal with stuff. But I told my wife this a while back. I said, you know, honey, you make the good days great and the bad days worse. And she's like, what do you mean by that? I said, well, baby, I said, think of it like this. When I'm having a good day and I get to tell it to you, it's a great day. When I share a moment with you and it's just so good and so happy, it's the best day ever. I said, but if we have a fight and something goes on, it's the worst thing in my life because I'm hurting my soulmate. I'm hurting the woman I care more about than anything in my life. You know, I chose my wife over everybody else. You know, I mean, I know we only knew of each other for 6 weeks, got married on the 4th date, basically. You know, did some crazy stuff, but she supports me, I support her. We're celebrating 10 months together as of the 21st of October. You know, we love each other. We're crazy about each other. we're getting to know each other on different levels. She's finding out about my weird quirks, and you know, we joke about this all the time, and I kind of think there's some truth to it. But I think I might be a little bit on the spectrum, you know, a little bit of the a bit on the tism, you know. I saw a shirt that said, "I put the tism in patriotism." I loved it. You know, um, you know. I think a good sense of humor gets you really far in life. I think people know genuine people when they see them. Someone that's just genuinely going to be there for you. I think the hardest thing to find in this world is a friend that wants the best for you. Even if it means nothing for them in return, they want to see you succeed, and those people are rare. I know several guys like that. They want to see you succeed because they want you to succeed. They want the best for you. I'm hoping to have some of them on my podcast. I'm hoping to introduce you to some of the most amazing men and women that I know. You know, well, get their point of view on life. Get their stories out there. Let you see what I see. Let me show you the heart of the people I know. And we're just going to rip open the rib cage and look in. I'm kidding. A little bit of the tism comes out. But yeah, I want to enjoy this time. I want to have fun. I don't want this to be too serious, but yet I don't want it to be too jokey. You know, let's have fun. Let's talk. I am going to point this out, though. If you ever hear I have a little bit of a slur, a little bit of a lisp, you know, carry on. My wife's pointed that out to me. My mom's dad also had a little bit of that, like our S's get a little slurred. My mom talks like that too a little bit. I don't know if it's hereditary or if we just have a issue with talking, but so if that drives you crazy, I apologize immediately. You know, I hope you have ability to tolerate you. I hate to lose somebody over a silly thing like that, but yeah, I just want to let you know my next guest, my first guest, I'm hoping is either going to be my wife or a buddy of mine. So I want you to stay tuned. I want you to get ready for what's next. Hey, and all else, have a great day. Love you guys. Bye-bye.